Welcome to week 2 Wednesday in Math 105. And the announcement I wanted to record, we just spent a few minutes talking about group projects and Discord possibly in the future. The one I want to record is the week 2 discussion topic, which has been expanded. So the one I inherited from the Math 105 lead teacher was doing field research just about banks. So if you've looked at the discussion topic for this week, all you had before was this. But most people I know of are at least moderately happy with their bank or credit union, and it's not that surprising and not that exciting. So I've given you 2 more options, because the students that I have had in my math classes in the past have had 2 basic needs. One is that they might not have a lot of money saved for retirement yet, but often they have a relative that does. Some older grandparent or aunt and uncle or parent that has a bunch of money in a savings account, is not earning a lot of interest in it, is happy it's safe in the savings account, but kind of has a sense that they could be more responsible with their money, that there's more than just putting stuff in savings accounts to retire. Or they have someone that's not quite so retirement age yet, that's trying to start saving and knows that the interest just won't be there if they leave it in a savings account. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that. Okay, so here's the discussion forum. So option 1 was exploring banks and credit unions. Okay, but probably boring. Option 2 is a real investment account. So if you have somebody that either has saved up for retirement and wants to know what next besides a savings account, or someone that's younger, maybe they're in their 30s or 40s, and that relative says, I know I can't just leave my money in the savings account, it won't grow enough. What should I do instead? And that's what I see all the time. So this is option 2. Imagine that you have that kind of person, whether or not you really do, in your extended family, and talk to some real person about what fits their needs. And we'll do this a little bit more today. So you could talk to a friend or a family member, that's fine. I've also given you the phone numbers for the 3 biggest cheap investment firms with low fees that typical Americans use. And the people at those phone numbers are happy to talk to you. It's the business of, if someone has been in your store once, they probably will come back. So even if you have no savings and are not about to start savings, you can call up these numbers and the representatives would love to give you a good first impression of their business and just talk about retirement planning with you. So the needs, there's fees and risk and flexible withdrawal timing. We'll talk about those 3 things later, but focus on those 3. And the third finance issue that people actually have is, I want to buy a home. How big a home can I afford? So let's make up somebody's monthly mortgage payment that they think fits their household budget, and also how they deal with the down payment. And then find out, look online or call somebody, what mortgage interest rates are available in Lane County, and tell me how you find out what size house they can afford with at least 2 options, because where you are in Lane County will matter. You won't get nearly as big a house in College Hill as you will out on River Road. So now you have 3 things to do instead of just 1 in this discussion topic. So I haven't done any teaching about this yet. That's next. But just any questions about the setup of what you might be doing?
So these are optional.
You have to do at least one of those 3 to get your point for the discussion forum. And like before, post 1 thing yourself and reply to 2 other people's stuff. Remember that this is not subscribed. You have to go up to the gear. If you want the email, not spam, flood, and say subscribe to this forum if you wanted to. Otherwise, you'll have to remember to go here. Okay, we're actually going to do these in mortgages first and then other types of stuff. Okay, the other announcement I wanted to record is this first little icon about some kids saving. There's the being a mather. And if you haven't read this yet, please read this page. But I'm going to focus on this little bit here. I'll just read the whole thing. Why not? Make the font a little bigger. Okay, story time. Relax a moment. Should I even start at the beginning? No, that's way too long. Okay. Most people in Math 105, shall we say, they can use math decently to balance a checkbook, compare prices at the store, do some household carpentry, and lots of other things. But sadly, the kind of math that they've done arises naturally in your life, and that's different than almost all of what you've done in the classroom. The kinds of things that you are good at and practical aren't appreciated or assessed or celebrated enough in the math classroom. Imagine there is a class about art, and you learn about lots of famous paintings and painters and styles of painting and historical influences, but you don't actually pick up a brush and paint. Then that's an art appreciation class, right? We have a good word for that. I've had some good art appreciation classes I've enjoyed. Or there was a class about music where you listen to famous songs and learn about composers and orchestras and styles of music, but you don't actually write notes and compose songs. Or you don't use an instrument to play a song. Then that's a music appreciation class, right? And there's lots of great music appreciation classes out there too. Now imagine a class about math problems, and you learn about famous old math problems that millions of other people have already solved, but you don't actually make your own new and original and personal math. Then that should be called a math appreciation class, just like for art and music. So if you are in Math 105, there's a chance you've never actually had a real math class like this before. You've only had what should have been named math appreciation classes, where people gave you old math problems everyone has done before and said it's a math class. And that might have felt weird, just as if somebody giving you an art appreciation class said it was an art class. So if the personal math, I'm down here now, that you haven't done to make real life more successful has been undervalued or exiled from the classroom or not celebrated, then part of my job as a Math 105 teacher is to point that out and sort of make amends. And I'm picking today for this little spiel because of politics, which I don't want to get into, but we can all agree that people from all sorts of political spectrum parts have been misbehaving lately. And if you strongly identify with a certain political group and people that say they are with your group misbehave, you should be responsible and say, that's not me. I'm sorry, some people are making my group look bad, right? So as a math teacher, that's my role. Then if you have had other math classes that made math look bad, then that was sad. So here, this is the class that the math that's been part of your life is what's central and celebrated. Money and budgets and patterns and buildings and shopping and browsing and health and recipes and prioritizing and schedules. So that's why we're getting into these nitty-gritties about what size house you can afford and things like that. And then you can read the rest, but I'm not going to read it out to you during school. The how real math works is important too. That's why I put a little reminder of what to do on the first page here. So, okay, that's the other announcement worth recording. Let's talk about mortgages. Mortgages. Is there anyone that is in the middle of house shopping and I should tailor my example to a certain part of Eugene or Springfield or Lane County?
I am actually. That would be helpful.
Okay, roughly where are you looking?
Let's just say like the Eugene area just for the sake of the class.
Okay. So my hypothetical family, we can change this if you want me to use other numbers. We'll let Lacey be the guest star. But if she doesn't want to reveal her household income and stuff, that is perfectly understandable. Let's just imagine the family has an annual income of $60,000. That's a number that's close to the median income for both Oregon and the US overall. So if your family makes about that much money, or this pretend family, then how big a house should we get? There's lots of steps to this. And some of this is just so you are a well-educated person and can be good at adulting. And some of this will actually be on your homework or tests. I will sometimes point out the difference. So there's a general rule for the size of mortgages or apartment payments. First, find 35% of your before tax income, then find 25% of your after tax income, and your housing expenses should probably be between those two numbers. Since you're using an annual income, then you need to divide by 12 because you really want to do everything monthly when talking about household budgeting. That, by the way, is an important rule. Maybe in your notes, put a star by it, but everything in a monthly sense for your house should be, for budget for a house should be monthly. If somebody says, sign up for this insurance for the new TV you're buying, it costs this much, then break it down to a monthly amount. If somebody says, I spend this much per year on what? Widgets, then how much are they spending a month, right? You can't compare things if some are per month and some are per year and so on. So for this sample family, the pre-tax income we said was 60,000. So multiply by 0.35 and then divide by 12 and we get 1750. The after-tax income, they look at their tax receipts. It's actually about 52,000. So we multiply that by 0.25 and do divided by 12 and get 1,083. So far, so good. And technology check, my mic is good, the font is big enough, everyone's happy. I think you're wrong. I think I need to make the font bigger. Okay. So that's a guideline, and it's a guideline that depends on where you live. To some extent, it's a guideline based on your other household expenses. Part of what makes real math real is that there isn't a single right answer. So the Wall family thinks about their priorities. They have only one child. They have some health issues the family deals with. They decide that they should aim at the lower end of that price range, and maybe 1,100 per month is what they pick. So we've gone from an annual income for this household to what we can afford to pay for our house. Everyone okay so far? Okay, how big a house can they get for 1,100 a month? This is a complicated bit of math because they will pay off monthly payments to make the debt go down, but there's also interest that makes the debt go up. There's things that work against each other in both directions of up and down. So we don't need to solve that problem. It's been solved for us. And the name of that problem of paying off debt with repeating scheduled payments is amortization. And you can look up an amortization table like the one on the screen to get some answers. If you were actually to visit a mortgage lender, they wouldn't have just this little nice, cute image on the screen. They would have a computer program, or in the older days, a big book, because mortgages don't just come in 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30 years. You could get an 18-year mortgage. And for the rows, the rate isn't 5, 6, 7, or 8. You could have a rate of 3%, or 3.1%, or 3.15%, or so on. So there's a lot more rows and there's a lot more columns in a complete amortization table. But we're a math class, not a mortgage industry office. So we're just going to use this very simplified version. Okay, the fine print, if you can read on the screen up at the blue top of the table, it says it's the monthly payment per $1,000 of loan. So you're not going to be able to buy a house for $1,000. If houses were really that cheap, then I could look on the row and the column and see what the answer is. So for 5% and 20 years, it would be $6.60 for a $1,000 loan. Everyone okay about playing Battleship and using the table? I'm going to grab this and put it on the whiteboard. Okay, we have it for when we need it. So actually, let's use it right now. What are we going to do? We just said that if it just so happened that, why isn't my pen working? Because I went to sleep. If it was 5% in 20 years, it would be $6.60 for a $1,000 loan. So if I wanted a $100,000 house, what would I do?
Multiply by 100.
Multiply it by 100, because every $1,000 of loan, I would need one of these. If I wanted a $200,000 house, I would multiply the 660 by 200. If I wanted a $135,000 house, I'd multiply it by 135. This feels very awkward. We're not used to saying, I'm going to do math with the number 135,000, but first I'm going to peel off the thousands and only use the 135. But that's how this table works. Okay, back to the Wall family. So for them, does it tell us the name? No, it doesn't. First, I have you do some other math. Okay, one moment. I'm going to.
Hey, hey, Dave. I don't mean to interrupt or anything.
Sure.
But I was on our homepage and I don't know what I did, but I can't access the little drop-down box where our code names are anymore.
Okay, a different time I will help you with that. You can always do either F5 to reload or Control F5. Somebody else actually had an email problem about this, so I will mention this while I am cutting and pasting. That Control R reloads a web page. You probably know that. And if Control R doesn't work, F5 is the same thing, but Control F5 does what's called a hard reload. And it has a web page not only reload the page, but anything that your computer has cached and any JavaScript behind the screens and scenes and things like that all gets reloaded too. So Control F5 might fix your thing. Okay, anyway. So find the monthly payment for a $130,000 mortgage with a 20-year loan and 6%. So 6%, 20 years, 776. We have 130,000. So I will take the 716, multiply it by the 130. And whatever that is, $930.80. Everyone happy? Notice that this 130 isn't $130. It's just 130 copies of this. Imagine that you go to a bank wanting to get a mortgage with a suitcase full of money, and they say, great, let's see how big a house you can afford. So you give them $7.16, and they say, wonderful, you've paid for $1,000 of loan. And you pull out another $7.16, and they say you're up to $2,000. And you do that again, and they say now you're up to $3,000. So you can do that 130 times. You run out of money in your suitcase, you get a $130,000 loan. Maybe that's a stupid story. Anyway, now we're going to talk about the Wall family again. Whoops, and I need to grab it from this window that you don't see where it has the right width. Okay. So for them, we have 6% and 30 years. So that makes $6. And they want to spend 1,000, whoops, that's a typo, 1,100 a month. Can I be clever with this? Let's see. Oops. Haha, okay. How big a mortgage can they afford? So now my stupid story might make a little more sense. They come to the bank, they have $1,100 for some reason of bills in a suitcase. Every time they give the bank $6, they get 1,000 more mortgage. So how do we know what the answer is?
You divide?
Yeah. So they give the bank teller $6 and they say, great, you're up to $1,000 of mortgage. They give them another $6. They say, great, you're up to 2,000 and so on. So 1,100 divided by 6, I get 183 roughly. And I'm going to round this because remember, they're a little worried about spending too much money. So this is thousands of loan size. So what we normally would write is 183,000. You might round this differently. If you wanted to make it 183,333, because that's what the calculator said, you could. I'm just being a little more conservative with their shopping. Questions about either of these? Okay, then we'll keep going. Okay, so they have about 183,000. Does everyone know the website Zillow? I'm going to pretend at least one person said no. So if I just want to look for 97405, then what's for sale? So I can just kind of zoom in anywhere. If I find houses, let's not be out in the middle of Lorraine Highway. There we go. And it knows how much houses are worth.
Hey, David, do you trust the amounts that they have on Zillow? Because I remember a couple of years ago, people were saying that they were kind of high. That Zillow was kind of high in their estimations.
They're good enough for math class, but that's why the realtors are in business, right?
Got it.
So
Good place to start.
It's a good place to start. Okay, so can they just go to Zillow and find something for sale for $183,000? No, there's a bunch of things that make buying a house complicated. So your home purchase has a down payment. The loan only covers the part that's not down payment. Most mortgages have a fee, nicknamed points, that could be as much as 3% of the loan amount. Most mortgages require you to pay a few months up front. You have to pay for all sorts of inspections and surveys and audits and things like that. And then you'll have attorney's fees and broker's fees and titles fees and all sorts of other fees. And you probably have to prepay some insurance also. So this is the part that we're going to simplify it a lot on a homework or a test. We're not going to go through all of these items. We're just going to sort of lump things together so you actually don't spend time with details you don't care about. So continuing with them. They find their home priced at $183,000. The down payment is 20%. So what's the actual mortgage amount? So the down payment is 20%. I could either multiply by a 0.2 and subtract, or multiply by a 0.8. Either way, I'm going to subtract. So what is that? 183,000 times 0.2, 36,600. Actual mortgage. $146,400. Okay. Again, you could do this as one step with times 0.08 if you were fancy. Everyone okay with this? They don't have to get a loan for that part. They just have to somehow scrounge up the money.
Looks good.
Looks good. Okay. Then, what's their monthly payment? So we just saw before that every $1,000 of loan was $6. So we're going to take $100, whoops, let's make that yellow. 146.4 thousands of loans. I just scooted my decimal point 3 times to get to how many thousands of loans.
Are you done with music?
And each of those was a times $6 from the table. So we get $878.40. And hopefully all my things, yep, match nicely. Okay, everyone okay with what's on the slide now? Holler if you want.
So why did you move that decimal? On the one
Because the table again is in per thousands.
Oh, okay.
So I had to figure out how many thousands were here. So
Okay.
3 scoots puts the decimal point there instead. So it's 146.4 thousands. If there was more things after the 4, I would put them here too.
Okay.
It's sort of traditional to budget for your house in terms of thousands, which is one reason in this problem I rounded to the nearest thousand. Okay, a question you should have had but didn't was, wait a minute, they wanted to spend 1,100 per month. Now they're only spending 870, 840. Couldn't they have bought a bigger house? And the answer is, I'm assuming they don't have 36,600 cash lying around. So they're actually going to be each month dealing with something more like this number. They're borrowing a bunch of money from grandma or their uncle or their kids' retirement funds or kids' college funds or their retirement funds or something like that. However they are scrounging up the down payment, they need to compensate for that. So we're giving them the financial flexibility to not only pay for their mortgage, but also have a little bit of extra money so that the down payment is something to deal with in some real practical way. Right? They have about 150 bucks to pay back grandma or whatever it is every month. Okay, we're almost done. Oops. So the mortgage has a 3% fee. So 3%, so 0.03. And the mortgage amount was the 146,400. So 4,392. Then they had the first month's mortgage payment, that was the 870. They had inspections for 200 and miscellaneous for 9. And besides that, they also need that 36,600 for the down payment. So what is all this? Plus 878 plus 200. I'm sorry if I'm cutting out. I see a text message. My computer is also giving me internet unstable messages. Okay, so that's a lot. So this is what's tricky about buying a house, that you need to have somehow all of this money available up front.
Can you hear us?
Yep, I hear you.
Because it was cutting out, yeah. So I missed all this. The first month, what is the this here? 200 and 900.
So the 200 was the inspections.
Oh, okay.
The 900 was the various other things and insurance and so on.
And 878 was,
That was the first month's mortgage being paid up front.
oh, okay. Mhm.
Okay, actually, let's go to your homework and see what it will look like better in your homework. In your homework, we're not going to do all of that. We're going to say that if you spend this much and you use these numbers in the table, what price of house can you afford? Then deal with the down payment. And then deal just with this stuff. Add things all up. But we're not going to break things up into inspections versus other stuff and so on. Oops. Stick that over there. Okay. So to summarize, their budget was about 1,100. They decided their house could be worth about this much. They needed the mortgage for that much. Their monthly payments just for the mortgage are the $878.40, which frees up a little bit more money each month to deal with managing those upfront costs. Okay. Did Lacey want me to do another example with numbers that she makes up out of the air?
No, I think that was good.
Okay. So that's the basic of how the amortization table works. Notice we used it twice. Once to get an idea of how big a house they could have, their total kind of financial impact on their lives. And then again, to say, well, they don't actually get a mortgage for their whole house. They only get the mortgage for the part that's not the down payment. So we have to use the table again. It's a little tricky to use it twice. Okay, next topic. We're going to skip that stuff. I'll skip that chart too. Okay. So we've done interest. We are now on this page. Okay. Wave your hands around or something. Tiny 10-second stretch break. We're changing topics completely. Now we're talking about saving for retirement. Remember the two discussion forum options. One was how big a house could someone afford? And the other was how do you actually save for retirement anyway? So we had the simple interest, we had the compound interest. Those formulas don't work like saving for retirement. For both of those formulas, you put in one principal amount, one deposit, and then nothing happens. You just watch it grow. And nobody does that. No one says, oh, I am 20 years old. I'm going to save for retirement. I will put a bunch of money in an account right now. And then that's all I do the rest of my life to save for retirement. We've seen with compound interest that a pattern can make a formula. And in real life, people don't have patterns. You save less when you're young because you have less income. You save more when your career has taken off and you have more income. That's just how people work. You also save less if your year has some certain expenses. If you have medical bills or your kids go to college or so on, you don't save as much for retirement those years. If you inherit money, then often you save a bunch of it and so on. So we don't get nice patterns. So we just need to, again, make some patterns, make a simplification so that we can get a formula and learn what we can from a slightly unrealistic situation. So that's what this is. Let's imagine that a household saves the same amount with every deposit and does so once a year. They put in money on January 1st, and they put in the same amount of money next January 1st, and they just keep doing that. That formula is a little bit more complicated than compound interest. We're not going to make a table like we did for 6 years of rent and actually invent this formula ourselves. I'm just going to give it to you, but it's not that bad. If we wanted to waste time in class, then we could. We just had better things to do with our lecture time. So here is the formula, and it's the annual increasing annuity formula, January 1st version. So that's a lot of words. We'll talk about them. First, let's just use it, because it will look more friendly when you've actually seen how it works. No, that's not what I want. There we go. New page. So we'll just make up some numbers. Final amount is what we're solving for. How much are we putting in every year? What's this imaginary household saving for retirement?
How about $1,000 a year?
1,000 a year. Okay, good round number. How many years are they saving?
Oh, well, how about 25?
25. And what rate are they getting?
Oh, well, maybe 4.5%.
4.5%. Okay.
Annually.
Right. So first of all of this is annual for now. We don't have to worry about any divided by 12s or times 12s. And that makes this formula actually very friendly. It looks a little longer, but watch how nice it is, because I don't have any of that divided by 12 times 12 garbage. Okay. I even fit it all on the screen. Barely. Before I start using my calculator, I want to talk about these parentheses. So first of all, notice that the small parentheses for 1 plus rate, I don't need. I can put a 1 in the front of 0.045 without bothering with parentheses. So the small parentheses are only here in the formula. I don't need them when I am actually using it. The big parentheses I do need. Otherwise, my divided by rate will only do the -1 part and not the whole thing. I need to divide all of this by the rate. So I do need this big parentheses. If you haven't seen brackets, that's just an old-fashioned tradition for typing. Instead of writing a small parentheses and then big parentheses, which I could if I was handwriting, then you alternate between brackets and parentheses to help see what's happening. With my website, I can do a little bit bigger of font, but it's still nice to alternate between parentheses and brackets, but they mean the same thing. It's not like brackets or super parentheses or anything like that. Anyone need to talk about the parentheses more before I plug this in my calculator? No. Okay, so remember to use your parentheses in your calculator. You need to do that. So 1,000 times 1.045 times parentheses 1.045 exponent 25. My calculator, I just hit -1 and close the parentheses and divided by 0.045 and I'm done. Other calculators, you're stuck in exponent land and you have to hit some key to get down back to the main flow of things. So if your calculator is locking you into exponent world, then do whatever you need to do to make sure the -1 is not up there. Okay, everyone get the same answer? This is a test if you can do the exponents and parentheses correctly on your calculator.
Yeah, I keep getting stuck on my calculator where it wants to subtract 1 from my exponent.
Yeah, so use the exponent key again, or use the little arrow that moves off to the right. Different calculators have different answers to this.
Imagine that, arrow keys. Okay.
Make sure you can do this here, because if your calculator doesn't work, you can't do the homework. So let's diagnose these. Also remember that there is an online calculator up top there on the blue. If you're ever too frustrated with your calculator, you can try this one as a last resort. I'm muting Marjorie, by the way, until she celebrates by getting it. So yeah, thumbs up, okay. Anyone else need calculator help? Now is your chance. If we were physically in a classroom, I'd be walking around watching everyone push buttons. Okay. So this is this formula. Onward. This formula we labeled the January 1st version because we assumed that whoever is saving started at the beginning of the year. What if we saved on December 31st instead? Then that first deposit wouldn't have the 1+ trick happen, right? We wouldn't do a times 1.045 to it. And that's okay, because right here, we have an extra times 1.045 just ready to be removed. So if you are someone that doesn't save in January, but instead saves in December at the end of the year, then the formula is exactly the same. We just take out that 1+ rate from the kind of the middle of it. Let's use our numbers again, but with the different formula. Everyone get the same answer? Calculator is working happy? I see a yes in chat. Okay. So the difference is what? 44.5, 46.5, so about $2,000. By skipping the interest of the first year, we lost about 2,000 bucks.
I'm so excited that my calculator is working properly.
Yay.
Tools.
Tools. Okay, what about monthly? Remember the compound interest formula? We had to do rates per payouts and number of payouts and all of that garbage. So if we want to save monthly, it's the same thing. Wherever we saw years before, we needed to say this is now a monthly rate. And instead of years up as the exponent, it's how many months you have, because that's where the payouts happen, right? So let's get our same numbers. By the way, there's only one version of this because people who save monthly almost always do it at the end of the month. So we're not going to worry about a beginning of the month version for monthly. So it's missing the little 1+ rate right here. So we need to say monthly. That means we need a divided by 12 here and a times 12. So that is the awkward number of 0.003 and 300 months. We're not going to save 1,000 a month either, are we? Okay, now I'm ready to plug things. So Putting in at the end of the year got us 44,500. Putting in at the end of the month, we got more money because there was more payouts, more times for the interest to compound on itself. So just like with compound interest, more frequently the compounding happens, the more the amount grows. Everyone's very quiet today. Well, not everyone, but too many people are very. Okay, well, I don't trust that you're not needing questions, but I will go on anyway for secret reasons. Okay. We had that amortization table. Where did it come from? That situation is called a payout annuity. So the basic annuity we were dealing with goes up. We were putting the same amount in again and again and again, and we were getting more money, right? $83.33, 300 times. But a payout annuity is like a car loan or a home loan. A bunch of money starts inside it. The principal is now taking the place of the final amount. It's the big number to happen in the formula. First, instead of the big exponent minus 1, we have 1 minus the big exponent. And second, there's a negative sign in front of how many payouts there are. Should I put number of payouts? Is that clearer? Or is just the word payouts okay?
The word payouts works for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to write number of payouts in my own notes.
I'm sorry, Ashley, your mic cut out. Our connection was too bad. You want to type it or repeat it?
I was just going to put number of payouts in my own notes because that will work better for me to know that it's the number.
I think I do like that better. So let me update things. Okay, see if my update worked. Oh, not yet. Oh, I don't have that going. Internet is slow. resume recording. The internet is back. We are recording again. Okay. So before I forgot this, then we did this problem with the table earlier, but now we're going to use it with the payout annuity formula, where you start with a big amount. Instead of a final amount, the big number is the starting number, the principal. And instead of deposits, we're making withdrawals. Okay. So our principal is the 130. The withdraw amount is what I'm looking for. It has a 1 minus instead of a -1 on the other side. My 1 plus rate per payout. This is annual stuff. There's no funny divided by 12s. Oh, nope, it's monthly. I'm sorry. It's monthly. So I need to take my 0.06 divided by 12. 0.06 divided by 12. 0.005 is my rate per month. I'm just going to back up one moment. I'm doing this sloppy. Let me make my rows like I've always done before. I'm trying to not run out of room because there'll be more steps, but it's not working. I will write everything out like we should. Oh, dear. Okay, everyone okay with my blue stuff?
Yes.
Yes, so again, that's the hard work. The plugging things in the formula isn't that bad. I should not have tried to skip over it. So how do I solve this? This is y times a bunch of stuff. I need one number so I can divide both sides and get y by itself. The tricky part with the calculator now is there's a negative exponent. And most calculators have a key that looks something like +/- that you use before the 240 to make it negative. A few calculators you use your subtraction key, but often that's the wrong key. You can't use the minus for subtraction. The calculator will get confused. So this is the upcoming negative key. Okay, so in my calculator,
we should have that on our computer, that plus negative.
yeah, it's often right equal sign. If you don't have one, maybe just the subtraction key does both. So once I've got it y times one number, I can divide by that number to get y by itself. And I get 931. I'll come back to this slide in a moment, but I'm curious, is this the same we got for number 17 earlier? Let's look and see. 930.80, so pretty close. If it's off by a few cents, it's because of little rounding errors that the formula doesn't take into consideration that each month you have a clean number of dollars and cents and not partial cents. It just builds off each other with an exponent. Any questions about this formula? This is getting pretty fancy. We have exponents. They're even negative exponents. We have parentheses that we can't get rid of. And we're solving for something in the middle instead of usually when just the answer is spit out on the left-hand side.
My calculator is giving me an error signal.
Okay. Can you show it to me or film it later and send me the video or something like that? What's happening that's making the error?
I think I might be putting the exponents in wrong, the negative exponent.
Make sure you're using the y to the x key, or it might look like a caret. Remember not to use the exp key. That's something totally different. It should look like y to the x or a caret symbol. If there's a key that says something like exp, then that's a bad key. Don't use that one. And also play around for the negative. Do you have a minus that you normally would do for subtraction? Or do you have to do something else to say this number will be negative?
I have a sort of general question, and I'm sorry if it's if I miss something, but so where in our homework or in real life would we use this formula? Like what would the question look like that we would use this formula?
This is one that is mostly making you jump through a hoop to show you can do this kind of thing. Because if you were actually getting a home loan, they tell you the mortgage. You don't have to find it yourself. That would be silly. Or if you actually get a car loan, they do this for you, right? And even if you worked at the mortgage company or the auto dealer, your computer would do this for you. No one's going to pull out a calculator and do this in real life. So the practical one is this kind of thing. We will talk on Monday about what's next. And to spoil the fun, how much do people actually need to save for retirement? And what are some patterns using these formulas that could make that happen? How much should you be worried if you're 25 or 30 or 35 or 40 and don't have much saved for retirement? What can you do? Things like that. So the increasing formulas will help us make some good decisions. The decreasing one is mostly just to show you can and flex your math muscle.
I had another question. So I know we did a few annuity formulas. I know there was annual and a monthly. Were there any other ones that I missed?
There was 2 different annual ones, whether you get interest the first year or don't, because you don't get this 1+ rate if you put your money in on December 31st. For the monthly, then we took the divided by 12s and times 12s and put them in. And that's mostly what people do. You could make these weekly, but no one really gets paid weekly. Some people get paid twice a month, but monthly is good enough for our class. No one gets their paycheck quarterly. With the payout, then I'm going to change my answer to Pamela now. That there is something called an annuity account. And an annuity account, you give an investment company a whole bunch of money, often $100,000 or more, and they distribute it to you as if it's a car loan or something. Every month, you get a certain amount. You get the withdrawal. And people will use this formula when they're retirees to say, I want to get a certain amount each week or each month or something like that as my income to live off. I know what the interest rates are that I can expect. Either given how much I've saved, how much will my monthly or weekly income be? Or if I'm trying to retire and I want this much a month, how much do I need to save to make this happen? So the reason that the going down formula works isn't actually for mortgages, it's for these things called annuities as a type of investment. Does anyone have any family members that own annuities?
My grandparents do.
We'll talk about types of investments also on Monday when we go over this. Okay, the good news right now is we are done with math before the test. If you look at our class, go back to the main page, then we've talked about interest and we're ahead of the game. We've talked in theory about annuities and loans already. There's no more formulas coming. Week 3, unfortunately, is a short week because of the holiday. There's no class on Monday. I only see you Wednesday. If you want to kind of show up anyway, then maybe we'll do something unofficial, but I'm not going to present any new material on Monday because it's a holiday. If it was a different kind of year, maybe I'd travel somewhere and say tough luck on you, but maybe I will actually be here some on Monday because where else will I go? Anyway, week 4, we have a test. So all we have now is practice using these formulas. And like I mentioned, some practical advice about what happens. So good job. We got through all the formulas. When I look at the references, then Elaine from her 105 class has these formulas. They come out of the PDF book That's our textbook that I've never used. By the way, you should look at the textbook. The reason you have a textbook is so you have a different way to hear it other than me. If I taught out of the textbook, that would be wrong, because then you just get the same way of explaining it. So it's my job as a teacher to try and explain it a different second way. And then you have tutors for a third way and so on. So these are the way they write the formulas. And you can stare at them and see how they are the same as mine. And in fact, I have done that for you. There's a link here that you will love this week, my version of Elaine's finance formulas. And when you go there, then you get this page where you have the simple interest, compound interest, the growing annuity, and the shrinking annuity formulas, the textbook way, and the way that I do it in my lectures. So I'm going to put that in chat just in case you're confused and can't find it in the references, but there's your summary of all of these formulas.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
So looking at the Elaine's notes, and I see this a lot, they say PO.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they mark it like that? Why not just say P?
They're using 0 to mean at time 0. This is the initial amount, the initial principal, to remind you that sometimes it's when you start with something like simple interest, and other times it's at the end. So in the annuity formula, they have P with an N instead of P with a 0, because they're using N to mean how many times things happen.
Okay.
So this is the after lots of times amount.
Okay.
I don't know why they write it that way. Obviously, I like my way better because it makes more sense to me. But I want you to be able to read the textbook and see what's happening. So when they have rate per payout, they write that as R over K as a fraction. Like, really? Can you be any more confusing? But that's what they do. Okay, on the homework for week 2, I have been very friendly. I put the amortization table right in the homework so you don't have to hunt for it. And later, when we use the end of month increasing annuity formula, I put it right there so you don't have to hunt for it. And I am noticing now that that one I should also put. Number of months. Okay, now it says number of months, like it should. Finally, at the end, I want you to do something like we just did and use the formula to check what the amortization table gives you more easily. So, and that one too, I should say number of payouts then. Okay. So you don't have to look up the formulas for the homework. I put them here. But later on in your studying, you will need to look them up. So we have 13 minutes and I have 2 offers. I could either give you a quiz and do the quiz and get it done in class time, so you're just done with math for a while, or I could make the quiz a take-home quiz and actually do some investing. I have a empty investment account that has money but no investments, and we could actually see what it's like if you do actually have those relatives that have saved but don't know what to do with it. It's sitting in a savings account being safe but not helpful enough.
Take-home quiz might be nice.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but like
take-home quiz.
Take-home quiz? Okay, so I'll give you the take-home quiz and we don't need the 13 minutes for that. So let's actually do some investing. So at the beginning of the Jamboard, I had shown you these things. Has everyone seen the quality triangle? Cheap, fast, good, pick two. No. Okay, so what that is saying is that if you want something built, hiring a contractor or hiring an engineer or something like that, then you have to pick two of these. Something could be cheap and fast, but it's not going to turn out good. I'm not sharing my screen. Thank you, thank you. Okay, here we go. Cheap, fast, good. So you have to pick two. If you want something built cheap and fast, it's not going to be good. If you want to build something fast and good, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And if you want to build something cheap and good, then you can't get it quick. It's going to take a long time. So this is a famous thing that people talk about: cheap, fast, good, pick two. So we're going to make the same thing, but for investments. So I've taken out that, and if you want to have low fees, that's one goal. If you want to be able to withdraw your money, and if you want to have low risk, that's a third goal. This were the three things that your discussion forum asked about. For your imaginary family that you are helping, which of these three do they care about? Let's first talk about someone that doesn't care about the low fees. They have lots of money, or they have, we'll see, lots of time. Then we mentioned the annuity account, named after that formula, where you put in a bunch of money and every month it just pays you some, or every week it just pays you some, and then you can take it to the store and spend it. Annuity accounts don't have low fees. They cost a lot. But if you had a lot of money, then that might be what's best for your grandparents or something, because they don't have to fuss about it. And it looks to me like Zoom is freezing again. Can people hear me? Somebody say something.
You're good on my end.
Okay,
I can hear you.
keep going. The other thing that works like this is called a bond ladder. When LCC has a bond to help pay for things, then it says you can buy the bond, and after a certain amount of time, you get more money than the bond cost you. So I'm going to go to our week 2 and look at the references, and there's a link about bond ladders with a nice picture at the bottom that says, yeah, okay, nice picture there. So somebody is going to buy lots of bonds, and the first one expires 2 years, and then after 4 years, and after 6 years, and after 8 years, and so on. So as these bonds mature, then you get money to live off. It's the same idea as the annuity, that every now and then you get a bunch of money to live off during your retirement. This is a huge pain in the neck to build the bond ladder and find the right investment products to buy, whether they're individual bonds or bond funds or so on. But if you have a lot of time, you're okay with not having a low cost to yourself, then you could build your own bond ladder. And lots of people that like playing with money in their retirement do that because they're retired and they can have that time. What about if you're okay with risk? So we're going to stay away from the low risk things. Then you would actually buy individual stocks. But you would buy what are called the dividend stocks. So here there is the Dividend Aristocrats links. These are companies you've heard of. 3M, Coca-Cola, Dover, Emerson, J&J, Procter & Gamble, Stanley Black & Decker, right? These are big companies everyone knows, and they are boring. And they have decided to be extra boring. They will take a bunch of their profit and give you just a percentage every, usually quarter. So if you own $100 of 3M stocks, maybe they will just pay you $3 a quarter as a dividend. They don't tend to be companies that grow a lot, partly because they're paying out dividends to all their stockholders. So they tend to have a pretty low risk. They're old, boring, giant companies. They don't get sued. And if they do, they have lots of money. They don't tend to invent the next vaccine. They are just sort of the workhorses of the economy. So you can buy them and get some dividends. You don't have much fees. And since they don't change in value much, you can kind of, but even then, these don't go down as much as things like Apple and Google. Then the last category is, what if you don't care about being able to withdraw whenever? If the market is down, I will just wait. I am young. I don't need my money right now. The market will recover. It's okay if my investments get stuck until the stock market comes back. So that's only for people with long-term thinking. And we want something that's a broad market because we want low risk. So I want to invest in the whole market. And that's called an ETF, an exchange traded fund. Why, I'm not going to tell you, at least not today. We don't have time. But these allow you to pretend to buy a stock, but really buy a whole lot of the whole market. And you can do them for stocks or bonds. So hopefully, if you're doing the discussion topic for the forum and picked the option 2, then whoever you talk to, whether it's a family member or some random person on the phone at an investment company, they will talk about these kinds of things. And now I've given you a heads up. If I had some money to invest, I would want to do a little of all of these, so that if something goes wrong with one of them, the other 2 can cover for me. Yes, diversification, my wife says. Okay, so I'm going to actually log into this account. The fact that someone old like me with gray hair has at least saved $3,000 for retirement shouldn't surprise anyone. And so here it is. I put 3,000 cash in, and we want to buy something. So let's go to buy and sell. And we're going to buy an ETF. And I really only have 2 nice choices. So I'm dealing with this side of the triangle right now. Do I want to deal with stocks or bonds? And I think I'm going to pick stocks, and you can help me. So there's 2 ETFs that are about stocks. One of them is about the whole market. The other is just about the 500 companies in the S&P 500. And if I was doing research, I would want to look these up. They both get great ratings. I want to check the expense ratio. Every year, it's going to charge me this number to own this thing. If it charged me 2% and it went up 4%, then half of my income is gone. But this one charges tiny, tiny amount, only 0.04%. So I'm not going to notice that. So that's the one with 500 companies in it. And this ETF has the mega cap. It's basically everything in the US stock market is in this one. Anyone? And it also has a tiny, tiny 0.07% expense ratio. Which one should we do, MGC or IVV?
MGC.
MGC. Get more stocks. Okay, so MGC by MGC. So there it is. And I want to spend 1/3 of my money on that. So it says I can get 7. And so market, there's no commission. The reason I'm using Vanguard is there's no commission. So I hit continue and ta-da, we have just bought stocks. The market is closed, it'll happen tomorrow. Great, who cares? Okay. Then does it have a back? Back. So that was those two. We've done this corner of the triangle. Annuity or a bond ladder. I need to sell this stuff in 10 weeks, so my next class can do the same thing. We're going to get to watch how these change over the next 10 weeks. So I'm not going to do either of these. These are long-term ideas. So I'm just going to get a bond fund. So the two bond funds are AGG and VTEB. One of them uses corporate bonds, and the other is only government bonds. Anyone care which one we do? Governments, somebody in chat. Okay, VTEB. So I'm going to buy VTEB. It's the right thing. Make sure I'm shopping correctly. And again, I want 1,000. I can type. So 18 shares. Okay. So continue. Yes. Ta-da. So we're done with 2 out of 3. Now we have our bond area. Dividend stocks. We had this list. So let's just pick one. What's a boring big company that we're pretty sure isn't going to tank in the next 10 weeks? We're not looking to make money off this company. It's just that if we did hold them for 1/4 of a year, they would give us income. Target says 2 people. Okay, where's Target? TGT. Okay. So back. TGT. Target, it's the right thing. Again, we want to spend 1/3 of our money because we are being boring. Okay, and it should be true that now if I go to my accounts, then I can see my order status. Nope, it didn't work. Anyway, that's because I haven't used Vanguard before. Maybe it's because we hit back.
Could it be under pending activity?
Pending activity. No. Transaction. No, that's just putting the money in from my credit union. I don't know, but it should be like that. Okay, well, we can do it again on Monday or Wednesday and other people can see it. So, oh, well, that flubbed. I thought we were gonna get to watch it for another week. But the moral of the story is if you have the basics and you have just a few ideas of what are the ways to buy everything, because picking individual stocks is risky. In real life, I wouldn't spend 1/3 of my money on one dividend stock. That would be stupid. Then it's not hard to invest. You're clicking things on a website like everything else these days. So if you have older relatives that aren't sure how to start investing, now you've kind of seen it. And we're 3 minutes over time. I'll try it again next time.
Where do we find the take-home quiz?
Where do we find the I'll email one out.
Okay.
I'm just going to pick 3 random homework problems from week 1, part B, and week 2, part A, and change the numbers and send them.
And then just send it back to you before.
Yep, email it back to me. Send a picture of your work.
I'm still having issues with the website. If I can share my screen with you to show you.
Sure. I will stop my share and you can share yours. I'm also going to stop the recording so that it